You know, really what I took from this matchup was, and I think I misspoke earlier, it's less about Nocturns turning down and more about Space Station looking better. I mean, SSG coming into Spring Split LAN, Taco, they were lukewarm at best, is really what I'm going to say.
I think that a lot of people tended to draw towards andinster as the focal point of Space Station because people weren't really sure where else to look. At the start of Season 5, junglers and mid laners came out with a bang. That's where all of the attention is immediately pushed towards. So Andy, I don't think really had much of a chance to distinguish himself apart from the other junglers. And what I mean by that is like distinguish as far as the play style is concerned, as far as the focus is concerned. Andy, to me, seemed like a player that was focusing entirely on putting his mid laner ahead, on putting his duo lane ahead. He didn't really give himself, I think, the large selfish play that we have seen from a couple of junglers in this season. And I think that is what led to those moments of questioning his consistency for a lot of people. But I think for what it's worth, he's managed to accomplish his goal in just about every set that he's come out to play in.
Big words for a big jungler there. As we look at our picks and bans for game number 1, Nocturnes will have the first selection. They opted for that. The loser does get their choice. So Nocturnes banning out the Chang'e. Definitely don't want to see Aquarius on that one. Athena banned out here. Right now, figuring out if they want to ban a number of characters. Zaionsix, Chernobog.
They don't have to ban the Zaionsix, though. They could take it.
And I think that's what they're thinking about right now.
They could take the Zaionsix. They probably don't want to ban Chernobog either, though, because that would make it a little bit too easy, I think, for Space Station to then just be like, okay, cool, you got rid of Chernobog, we'll get rid of Zaionsix, and then neither of us have to really deal with those two gods, because those are probably two of the more prevalent picks right now as far as competitive play is concerned. And Zaionsix, I mean, he's a thick boy.
Yeah, no, those heavy protections come through. The passive change makes things just a little bit easier, and he has been incredible. He was banned out during the console series basically the entire time. Got to play one game, dominated said game. Nocturnes banning out the Chernobog, and this has to be a Zaionsix ban, I would say, from Space Station Gaming. Nocturnes thinking about their first pick.
Space Station could also risk it for the biscuit in a sense and leave the Zaionsix open, but no, that's not going to be the case here today. Even Space Station don't want to flirt with the possible thought of disaster.
BaRRaCCuDDa hates Zaionsix.
I don't blame him.
He's just, I mean, he expels the demons and chases you.
It feels like you are healing him as a hunter whenever you attack him. And the whole time that you're attacking him and he's healing, by the way, you're losing your entire health bar in like 5 seconds.
And he's just sitting there going, ho, 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 ho. He's a very, very obnoxious god to deal with.
Plus the Gem of Isolation. Every Zaionsix ever buys Gem of Isolation just to be that guy, and it's a great item. Don't get me wrong; it is definitely a fantastic item for Zaionsix, but it does something to a hunter.
When you get the Gem of Isolation slow, it can be really rough. Artemis, first pick for Nocturnes, but the Thoth Terra combination. And Space Station Gaming, get the bird, man. And Baskin going to be looking to flex. The artillery-style mage going to be on the back line, firing from a distance. And it's tough.
I'm almost surprised that Nocturnes don't elect to take the Thoth themselves, because they could have gone for the Thoth, given up the Artemis, if Space Station were even wanting to take Artemis in the first place. And I still feel as though stripping away that pick from Baskin would be in their better interest, simply because Baskin is just too mechanically sound as an individual for Thoth to really go wrong, I think, in the laning phase. And Nocturnes, if they got a strategy against this Thoth, it's got to be heavy CC factors. Artemis already got that Tusky. That's going to be a nice one to have. Ratatoskr through the Cosmos now, also beneficial.
Love this draft.
And the Janus disengage, you can't go wrong.
This is what I think this is the right pick, so to speak. If Thoth was first selected by Nocturnes, they'd probably go Artemis, Janus, to be honest with you, they being Space Station Gaming. So Artemis, Ratatoskr, and Janus so far for Nocturnes. Space Station Gaming going to opt for Thoth, Terra, and Medusa Historically a mid-game hunter, in my opinion, but with the change to Viper Shot, has definitely taken more of that late-game change.
Medusa in general feels like a very strong answer towards Artemis, not necessarily in a raw battle of auto attacks, because I think with Artemis, that attack speed steroid almost always going to give her the edge over an ability-based hunter like Medusa. But having the poke potential from a range, that's the big thing that you want to keep an eye out for here in this dual lane matchup, because Medusa with the acid spray has some capability to inflict damage against the Artemis. You can also stay out of range of that suppress the insolent, so you don't have to worry about the poke yourself. But best of all, Artemis cannot escape your petrified damage. You can avoid the stun by all means, but she's not mobile enough. There's no raw escape to actually separate the distance.
And so Medusa going to be a nice selection there. Spacestation Gaming banning out 2 Guardians, no Sylvanas, no Cerberus. And Nocturne's going to stick to the anti-bans, the Circuit, and the Mercury, which I think is the correct thing to do. But you are leaving this man open. Aquarius is going to get his selection of what to pick. Whether he goes to the Odin one more time is yet to be seen. Artemis, Ratatoskr, and Janus susceptible to the Odin cage, so it would not be a bad look for Spacestation to go right back to it.
Artemis for sure, very, very vulnerable to that Odin cage, and we already saw one time a little bit of struggles there for a Nocturnes Hunter in the last game trying to deal with Aquarius. He was just so in their face all the time. There's also some potential for Achilles pickup, even if Aquarius just wants to go for super aggro, but he will go with the super aggro method just on the Erlang shot instead.
Now, the Erlang could also be in the jungle. We've seen the likes of Trifecta do that a lot, although they've been kind of the only team that does that. So we'll see if Andy decides to borrow a page from those folks. Nocturnes here, excuse me, Splice are the ones that play the Erlang and Shen. So we'll see if he takes a page out of Aurora's book. Nocturnes, I love this pick. They're going to go with for the Odin, not convinced that Erlang Shen is in that solo lane. Take it away just in case and bring the Ares through as well.
Well, there's your crowd control that we were asking for. My main concern, though, again, looking at this composition, the mid lane, I don't see Janus as that huge burst swing of damage that you want inside of the Odin cage or off of the Ares ultimate. It's just so hard to really combo with the no escape in the cage, and I think that could possibly work against Nocturnes.
Do it. Do it. You're not wolves. Do it. Hover the Loki like it's 2014 all over again. We did see some Loki last week. He actually didn't perform well. Wolves on the console, historically a very strong Loki, doesn't work out. Spacestation Gaming, it's all very funny, ha ha ha. They're actually going to pick Achilles. There you go. I think that's a little bit more appropriate.
And leads me to believe that the Erlang Shen is for andinster in the jungle role, so...
Oh, yeah? You think Achilles is...
I think that Achilles is going to be for the solo lane, Erlang for the mid. I just feel like that setup is a little bit better. You've got the turtle knock up in the transformation stage to help set up a little bit better for that Thoth stun. And with that range that Thoth can have also, Erlang can just go for the blink forward. You don't necessarily have to be right next to each other, which is kind of the fun part of this matchup. Also, the taunt off of the ultimate can be really beneficial to have there. A couple of different ways even for this Medusa and Thoth to really pop off here for Spacestation.
Yeah, I've been enjoying watching what the Thoth guys have been able to do here. Nocturnes across the way. They're going to have to mitigate that somehow. I mean, there's the Odin, the Ares to kind of stop Thoth from dashing around. How does Nocturnes control this mid lane mage?
Send Odin there every other minute, pretty much. You just want the Odin to sit on top of Baskin the entire game. You don't want him to feel like he can be very relaxed in that mid lane, and just a lot of times you'll see Thoths during the laning phases. They just sit back, sit on that tower line, clear. Once we're level 7 through 9, sure, maybe we'll start jumping into a little bit of the action now, but I think this also kind of depends a little bit as far as how Nocturnes are going to play it, based on whether or not the Erlang is in the jungle and the Achilles is in the solo, or vice versa. I mean, these two picks are very interchangeable.
All right, well, let us know who you think is going to win, whether it's Nocturnes or if Spacestation Gaming are going to bring it home for North America. Let us know if it's going to happen, but let's go take a look right now. Finch and Tully, let's see it.
Well, here we are, Nocturns going up against Spacestation Gaming, Game 2. After a tough loss, Nocturns have to respond, and totally they do not have much time. It's only a best-of-3 set. If they let this one slip away, it's right down to the lower bracket.
It's a high execution comp. I actually called this with you in this room right after secondary ban phase. So many support bans out of Spacestation Gaming. It was the Cerberus,
3 bans in the Terra pick,
and one more support that I forget. And Ares was perfect because it shuts down the dash combination from Jeff, shuts down the evade and punish from Baskin, and prevents BaRRaCCuDDa from getting away. But I'm like thinking to myself, there's no way Nocturnes picks the Ares because they lost game number 1. It's a high execution god, and that's what Nocturnes needs to do now with this Ares pick. Play aggressive, play proactive, the complete opposite of what they demonstrated in game 1.
Yeah, we were thinking perhaps the Kumbhakarna instead, because we could maybe go right Sobek or Ares in this slot and it would work well, but there's a heavy chance for those picks to both get punished if you're not perfect on your execution, whereas the Kumbhakarna has a little bit more room for error, margin for error, but instead Nocturnes feeling confident, going with this Ares, going with the mobility between the Ratatoskr and the Janus. But if they play as passively as they played game 1, especially at the beginning, I mean, does it matter that you have the good Ares matchup or all the global mobility?
I don't think it will, honestly, because it's all about what these two teams are going to do around the Ares pick. I like how both of these mid laners were also like kind of hugging each other while hitting the wave at the same time.
Beads comes out from andinster as it is that Erlang Shen going into the jungle with Achilles over in solo lane. Felt like he was under some pressure from that portal, didn't want to take that extra damage, so will drop the beads and perhaps won't be in much need of those outside of going up against that portal there in the mid lane, so he's okay with using them there.
Not really going to be seeing too much out of the solo lane until the level 5s come around, and this 2-on-2 in the mid should heavily favor Spacestation Gaming. The Thoth guy is able to really start out-pressuring the Janus because Janus needs a little bit of extra help from items, but once Baskin hits level 3, he gets his wall off, he's able to... I can't believe he actually just juked that, by the way, and he's just able to out-clear the Janus and not going to allow SmiteVOD any breathing room chasing him in the back camps.
Yeah, Baskin's just like no fun to play against, right? Like he's getting the good shots off onto SmiteVOD from range and avoiding unstable vortex from Zaionsix as he tries to look to punish him in return. It's just annoying.
I'm surprised he didn't like dash in and commit for the kill, but Baskin's still keeping in the back of his mind that there's a mid wave he needs to not let slip through his fingers, and that's what keeps him at the top of the farming game. That last game, he was almost 17, highest level of the game at a certain point, where the solo laners were about 16 and 15 respectively.
Yeah, he was ahead of even those solo laners as Noitulover does land the first chain, but not the second. So far, Spacestation have had the lane pressure here. Though he does end up getting trapped. That was actually really good to interrupt him trying to crash through that monolith. But so far, it's been all Spacestation here in duo.
Nocturnes need to play aggressive now. The chains are coming up. There goes one. There goes two. Third one even connects. BaRRaCCuDDa forced to beats away.
But unfortunately, Noitulover is playing with that blink. So once they start the engage, and if blink wasn't used for it, he essentially doesn't even have a relic to help out with that push. Maybe something like Sprint might have been able to help them out a little bit more there, but when they're able to engage successfully without it, it doesn't help much.
Possibly could be the case if they can look for an aggressive play now after clearing this wave. Red buff respawned for Spacestation. They're going to clear that up first before heading back to the wave, but the same thing can be said for Nocturnes. They're not going to try to look for an aggressive play while their own buffs are up, considering that the more time you waste on looking for that play, and if the buffs are still up, then you need to make sure that it's on constant rotations. We talk about experience per minute, we talk about gold per minute. Well, that gold per minute gets severely hindered when you're not on the ball with those rotations.
Making sure that they're comfortably farming consistently. Perhaps that was what JeffHindla had in mind when he elected for the Health Chalice and just the Guardian's Blessing to sort of get things rolling here, and perhaps recognizing he'd be taking a lot of poke from this Ares and Zaionsix on the Artemis as well, so a bit of an adaptation there from JeffHindla to make sure that they are indeed able to stick around and, as you said, hit all those buff rotations.
Trying to kind of zone Nocturnes away from this wave, but with this many archers, Spacestation Gaming are not going to be allowed to kind of zone away their wave. The North Americans are going to be able to just out-clear Nocturnes very quickly, and they're still keeping themselves within the experience range. Noitulover, I might be even looking for a blink, but if he does, that's a lot of archers he has to deal with.
I might not want to jump into those minions right away, but look at SmiteVOD. We talked about this sort of this power spike from last time, right, where the Acorns finished, where he has the ultimate, an opportunity where he can be much more impactful than andinster, who's just sitting on the tier 2 boots. But again, electing to make sure that his farm is up to date rather than ganking. Perhaps a chance here in mid lane with Baskin and andinster grouped up.
Right side mids have spawned. That's exactly where Spacestation are heading to. Portal even being used, trying to find the steal, not timing those Acorn blasts quite effectively enough. And whenever a team is able to control both sides of the mid camps, that's a way that you're going to start building a lead to racing to level 9, 10, 11, 12, getting the second relic. If there's no kills yet, it's those little mid camps that start heavily swinging it into your side.
And those are the kind of small power spikes that we're talking about that can turn themselves into big leads as andinster is lurking on the solo lane side. You know, when you do start fighting over objectives, or once you do find a few kills, it's who's that little bit ahead, you know, who might have, you know, one more tier of an item or get to their next level in ability a little bit sooner.
And it's all about the season 0 and 1 days where teams used to group up for those mid camps with the hand of the gods back then.
It used to be a big deal, yeah.
Yeah, like those mid camps were a big deal.
Like someone was
going
to die for sure. Like, yeah,
absolutely. The contesting of the mid camps were like, you either lose them, like if you lose those, you almost lose the game, so you might as well fight over them because of how valuable they were. But a little bit more deep inside Smite's meta in Season 5 now. You don't have to all-in commit. There's still plenty of things to gather around this side of the map. When you got 1 minute respawn back camps, you got 2 minute respawn buff camps. It's still very important to keep the back camps on rotations as well.
Yeah, and that's part of why we're seeing SmiteVOD be very patient with whether or not he wants to go in for an engagement, because when you're ganking, you are giving up on time you could be spending farming because something's almost always up for you to grab. As he does end up running into andinster, pin lands, but not going to get the root with the dash still available. Nozick joins him, but it's 3 members. Evade and punish lands first. Ooh. No knockup, gets through the portal, through space and time. Fire through in return, is going to clip Baskin and steal the buff. They want to go in aggressive chains.
Oh, the doubles, pulls, coming onto Noitulover, onto JeffHindla rather. The final judgment being used, but forces out SmiteVOD.
Totally, they were so close, but instead it's going to be Noitulover who falls instead. We were asking them totally all game 1 to be the ones who were the aggressors. They finally make the call. It's off the mark, and SmiteVOD could be in trouble as well as andinster comes in to strip away speed.
Had to concede it with only 1 more basic attack, but if he invests that 1 basic attack, Finch, his movement speed's going to get slowed. andinster's going to look for the cleanup. Very unfortunate set of circumstances. A good offensive play from Nocturns because they need to make plays like that. But just too much team fighting potential through the Earth and Fury, being able to stop the damage from Noitulover, increase the healing without any sort of anti-healing. This Earth and Fury becomes much more valuable.
And it wasn't earned, right? The all-in commit. You know, if you're going to go in like that, you know, you got to force some relics, force some cooldowns ahead of time. They all end. The one time we seem to be aggressive in a set and a half was then, right? So Spacestation Gaming had everything available to just kind of respond.
Well, they did force the evade and punish. They recognized that andinster uses Turtle Shell trying to catch out the Janus, but I think that they could have slowed it down a little bit. This Ares play onto the Terra, there was not much follow-up from Nocturns, right? Like, he didn't take his own portals. He did not want any part of that fight after creating the transportation available for his teammates. So he slowed down, and without the Janus damage to follow up, it allowed JeffHindla to narrowly escape and allow Spacestation to find the first blood.
That's right. He essentially got his follow-up on the front end, right? Like, that's sort of what started the fight, was through space and time, went ripped through the fight, and sort of brought a couple members low, and that was when they initially go in for the engagement. So didn't have the best follow-up afterwards because some sort of front ended in that fight, and instead Nocturn's the one that gets punished. First blood going the way of andinster in the jungle on the Erlang Shen. Getting off to a good start is not good news if you're going up against a warrior jungle.
It's definitely a momentum-based character. Any warrior jungler is almost crippled when they're behind, right? So you want to keep them ahead or at least neutral, and the fact that the first blood bounty goes to the way of andinster's Erlang Shen allows him to try to win this race of some more penetration. More than likely, andinster is going to go for some Jotun's Wrath action, and we could see another crusher from SmiteVOD.
So far, it looks like our mid laners are building very similarly this time, but we are seeing a bit of divergence from our supports this time. Looks like JeffHindla more interested in the defense boots, and Zaionsix interested in just staying alive. Is able to get a little bit of return damage out. Beads do have to come out from BaRRaCCuDDa. Sprint comes out from JeffHindla, but they also get the beads from Zaionsix.
Very interesting that it's Nocturns dual lane that's being pressured. It's
It is.
a red buff on this level 8 Artemis. Zaionsix had to use that ultimate defensively. The board was ping-ponging to allow them to disengage, but you gotta be rooting for Nocturnes dual lane to be aggressive with this Ares Artemis pick. It just screams aggression, but this Earth and Fury out of JeffHindla, picking it before the secondary ban phase, trying to limit some of the options from Noitulover. It kind of pigeonholes Nocturne's support.
This is that aggression you wanted, though. No escape to pull BaRRaCCuDDa in after the beads were forced earlier on. This is what I meant by the earned aggression. They get those beads out from BaRRaCCuDDa early, and they can very easily clean up with the no escape.
Not respecting the blink possibility. Had Spacestation Gaming wrapped around their own purple buff safely into their own tier 1 tower instead of taking the most quickest route possible, I think Noitulover wouldn't be able to find that play. But great recognition.
Yeah.
Opens up Pyromancer on the right, though.
Yeah, that might just be an outright win for Space Station there. Yes, they do end up losing BaRRaCCuDDa, but a Pyromancer here at this point, uncontested. It's nice if Nocturnes were grabbing the gold. Fury off the back of that. They're up 2k gold and 1800 gold and 2k experience, rather.
And honestly, if you're giving up BaRRaCCuDDa to allow Baskin to free farm, that's going to be fine in my books, because a Medusa's still going to do late game Medusa things. You're looking for that big Petrify team fighting ultimate. Doesn't matter if you're level 16 or 15, but as long as Baskin is 17 or higher at that stage of the game, he's going to be bringing the pain with those final judgments. He's so accurate, very precise, almost surgeon-esque with his abilities.
But that's got to make it tough, right? Like mentally, as BaRRaCCuDDa could get collapsed on here. Noitu does not have the blink. Petrify used early on, so BaRRaCCuDDa will be able to disengage. But totally from like a mental aspect, you finally execute correctly with this risky Ares pick you go with, and then you hear that global audio cue that they stole the Pyromancer while your head was turned the other direction.
That was just a great opportunity. Spacestation Gaming, they looked for those kinds of opportunistic plays. Speaking of opportunistic, Baskin with a hieroglyphic assault, stealing away those oracles. Spacestation Gaming are looking for those little things where it matters, but at least Nocturnes are playing aggressive now, not afraid to pull the trigger on the blink or the through space in time to look for something on the map, because game 1, they looked like they were hibernating. They were just kind of allowing Spacestation Gaming to make the plays. And
that's a credit that I'll give to Nocturnes. If they end up falling here, which certainly is not the case right now, they're close to Space Station, not even, but close. If they go down swinging, I feel a little bit better than last time, where it just slowly was taken from them across 30 minutes, right? And they never really made their move the whole game.
Trying to see what andinster could do in the solo lane, but he's just looking for the farm. Not interested in wasting his time ganking a level 12 Odin that has that Breastplate of Valor completed. A lot of physical defense to survive against this Achilles, Erlang, Shen combination. But at the end of the day, honestly, like with an execute from Aquarius, it wouldn't be a bad idea to maybe invest a little bit of time in that solo lane and allow that separation between these two, because the way Aquarius was able to rotate last game, very impactful. And if you can chip down Beltway, maybe even forcing him to back, whether or not you kill him, you can maybe open the door for that tier 1 tower.
Could potentially be the idea, right? As Aquarius, a big part of what they did last game. And remember how willing he was to invest in his relics. He upgraded the teleport very early on and upgraded the Cursed Ankh as well early on that last game. So we might see him do something similar as he's grabbed the Phantom to try and deal with Beltway on the Odin cage a little bit more easily.
Going for a bridge item inside the Gladiator Shield and another sort of utility item, I would say, the Void Shield. A hybrid between power and defense, getting that penetration aura as to 20 physical penetration, allows andinster also a lot of damage.
Well, Gold Fury being called. Zaionsix is here, along with Noitulover. Blink available for the support if he wants to jump in, but it's already too late. Space Station grabbed gold. Too late on the through space in time. Now comes the no escape, but Petrify returns the favor, and Baskin gets the first kill.
Oh, but Zaionsix gets answered immediately after. andinster gets credit with that one. Space Station walk away with the Gold Fury. 2 more picks. Looking to shut down Beltway with a nice stun, but Baskin is more interested in clearing the mid wave.
They're 4 members strong. They want to fight. Beltway does drop the Odin cage, but you might not want to rage here. Beltway ends up falling to Aquarius. Up in the sky is SmiteVOD, but it's too little too late. He gets stunned. Beads lets him find a stun of his own, but he's not going to get away from the rain from Baskin. Another kill for Spacestation Gaming, 3 for 0.
It was the play from Aquarius that distracted so many Nocturns member around the right side of the map, keeping Beltway and SmiteVOD on the right side. Even Zaionsix wasn't quite there at the goal Fury in time because of the speed buff contest. Aquarius off-screen was being a nuisance. This Achilles ping-ponging between your mid and soul lane is a threat enough on its own because of there's not that much health or protections from Zaionsix. So when you're getting ganked from a level 15 Achilles, whether it's jungle or soul lane, you got to respect that presence. But Nocturns, they have to focus their attention on the speed buff, focus their attention on the left side of the map. Gave up both, honestly. They couldn't really do much of anything, and the combination of Noitulover being aggressive with his no escape, and then Zaionsix pulling the trigger too quickly on the Caledonian board didn't allow that double ultimate synergy.
Instead, Spacestation Gaming grab the Gold Fury for themselves, grab a few kills to go along with it, and now here at the 15-minute mark, they've got themselves an 8,400 experience lead already, 6,400 gold. The pace of this one feels ratcheted up a bit from last game.
I was going to mention this because Gold Fury being down at 13.5 minutes compared to the first game where it was at 15 minutes, and even with the Gold Fury the last game, it wasn't that big of a lead. I think it was anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 off of the first Gold Fury, and now it's just stretching and stretching. These North Americans are here to play, and they're taking Nocturns very seriously considering the way they ended the game number 1. And I wouldn't be surprised if they still play methodical to try to do the same in the ending of the game 2.
That's right. The Tier 1 tower in mid and duo have fallen at this point as well. Only the Tier 1 in solo still stands. Andinster electing for this Wing Blade, which I kind of like. Looks like he might even be going for another one in that tree, perhaps a Relic Dagger or something to that extent as he's building for a little bit more HP. Pyromancer going down. They do have some help here. Unstable Vortex comes over the wall. Not enough to steal it away. JeffHindla wants to keep it leashed, but Beltway makes them think otherwise.
Bait and Punished was used. Chains coming through from Aquarius, missing the second one. It's a little bit of a bait from Spacestation because they want to fight. The burst damage coming from Baskin, and at the range that he's firing it is good enough.
Through space and time comes out. Beltway blinks in and drops down the cage, but no follow-up. It is enough for Spacestation to leash the Pyromancer, at least for now. Beltway and Noitulover want to keep this fight going because up in the air, SmiteVOD looking for Andinster, but bit off more than he can chew. The double team when Baskin was just too strong.
Between the knockup from Andy and the stun out of Baskin, eliminating SmiteVOD, a 30-second window where Spacestation Gaming have a 5-on-4 advantage, extending it to a second Pyromancer of this game.
Yeah, Andinster's boy was waiting for him in the wings, man. Baskin not letting the 1v1s happen, 2v1s here, and SmiteVOD unfortunately ends up getting punished. But as I said, this has been a couple aggressive calls from Nocturns as opposed to just sort of letting Spacestation get what they want. They haven't worked yet, but clearly the right change in mentality.
I just can't see the offensive plays from Nocturns. SmiteVOD was trying to land onto Andinster.
Right.
Of all players, misses the ultimate, no real follow-up immediately afterwards, doesn't use the purification beads after the knockup. Not sure if it was up or not, but it's just looking like not a snowball, but just such a confident boost from Spacestation Gaming where they get one objective, which is almost effortlessly transition into the second one.
This is an interesting build path from Andinster. I mean, I can't say I dislike it. the Crusher Boots, Wingblade to the Witchblade. So, I mean, he certainly had a tremendous impact at this point. We just saw SmiteVOD punished when he tried to aggress into it.
Thinking about the late game options, somebody's got to build Witchblade against this Artemis, and if you're an Erlang Shen that needs to build hybrid anyway, it's your job to dive that backline with the blink. Getting the turtle shell knock-up onto Zaionsix would be the dream scenario for Andinster as long as he remains out of combat. So the Witchblade will just help prevent some of that DPS. I'm pretty sure Andinster also wanted the Void Shield, but not wanted to double stack it alongside Aquarius.
Well, that's going to make life extra hard for Zaionsix between Aquarius and Andinster. Plus, it's going to get a little bit of extra speed boost. Once it gets hit by that first slow, and there's plenty of them, whether it's Beltway, whether it's Zaionsix dropping down that threshold, whether it's Zaionsix. I mean, they have a ton for Nocturns Gaming, so they might even accidentally just proc that at some point, allow Andinster to aggress even further as Gold Fury going down now for Spacestation Gaming, and Nocturnes just can't contest.
Their second one of the game. even the ultimate from Zaionsix was still held on to. I'm not sure if they even had the proper vision to contest that one. This is not the start that you normally would want from the summer land. Now, granted, there will be a second chance for Nocturns if they fall in this game number 2. Right. Their best of 3 with Spacestation Gaming will be over, but they'll still have an opportunity through the lower bracket.
No, this is not going to be the end for Nocturns Gaming if they were to fall here. They certainly haven't yet, but it does appear that it might just be in the cards. Just Spacestation Gaming continue to look excellent. They look very clean here so far up against Nocturns. That they'll drop down the lower bracket, have a chance to fight their way back on through. As I said earlier, it's a long week of fighting, totally, to try and get that champion.
It definitely is, but if I'm Nocturns, I'm still very worried about this game. 10,000 gold behind. There is still a potential to play comeback with a Janus. Like, one good ultimate from through space and time, a couple of good portals on the ground to force some purification beads, and the aggression from Noitulover could be the difference maker. But I don't think Spacestation Gaming are going to allow that, considering how carefully they played Game 1. There was like no real Phoenix dives that were too far out in the ordinary. They weren't diving the Titan room. They were taking their time with the LATAM squad.
Oh, this is a problem. Nocturns are nowhere to be found. Fire Giant going to go to Spacestation Gaming for free. In fact, SmiteVOD fighting with andinster, who's happily letting him know, I've now got a nice shiny new belt you can't do anything about.
Oh, SmiteVOD trying to avoid this 1v1. Uses the bead. Zaionsix trying to play cleanup crew. andinster actually going to blink away from the action. But this could be a 2-on-1 against Zaionsix now.
Yeah, they're looking for more aggression. The portal comes through to create some space. Has to use the board to get away from the root from the pen. Zaionsix is going to be able to retreat, but Tier 2 tower in right falls, and they're going to keep pushing now onto the Phoenix.
Beltway's here, as is SmiteVOD. Around the corner is Noitulover. Keep in mind, he has blink. He goes in with the Odin cage, trapping in 3. Trying to disengage as SmiteVOD very low, but Baskin already takes him out.
JeffHindla dropped that Earth in Fury as well and doing work in that last engagement. Evade and punish comes out from long range, and BaRRaCCuDDa happy to come in and play cleanup duty. Root land on his Zaionsix beads, and Aegis keeps him alive for a moment. andinster undeterred, and now he wants Beltway as well. The movement speed coming up big. They go back for Phoenix on the right-hand side.
Man, andinster zoomed from that dual lane right into the soul lane. Phoenix. Or the but look at that Spacestation Gaming. They're not wasting any time. They want the win right now.
Totally. I think this one might be over. Spacestation Gaming not going to wait 30 minutes this time. 21 minutes, 12 seconds. They take game 2 and the set over Nocturns. And look at the Space Station boys. No hootin', no hollering here. Just business as usual as they move on through the bracket.
I mean, these 5 collective players have been through so many lands. Minus Aquarius hasn't had too many lands in his book. Probably his second one, if I recall correctly, but the rest of the 4 have been through so many lands. Since the beginning was BaRRaCCuDDa, JeffHindla, and andinster. Joining them in Season 2 was Baskin in the Cloud 9 days. So yeah, this is just like another day in the office for them. They were the team to expect to win against Nocturns Gaming.
And remember in Game 1, right, it was that play around the Gold Fury where they teleport, or they use through space and time over to Pyro, get FG, that whole big swing for them in Game 1. In Game 2, the big swing, it felt like, where they don't fight over Gold Fury or Fire Giant. Those both kind of get stripped away from Nocturns without them having a chance to kind of come in and contest.
That was a big play, but I'm also looking at that first right side mid Harpy contest where they had to disengage originally from the stun out of Baskin, from the knockup from andinster, and after taking his own portal, I like the fact that Zaionsix did a 180 through space and time, which originally stole those right mid Harpies, and then Noitulover tried to get in position to use that no escape, but just a little too far away from his teammates. Zaionsix not taking his own portal for the follow-up damage. Noitulover goes down very quickly, and I believe it was andinster with that first blood gold bounty, really able to start building some of these utility items, going for the Winged Blade, going for the Witch Blade, having a lot of movement speed to be able to ping-pong.
And we saw that on the end, right? He rotates all the way back over from dual lane, really is able to stick to a couple targets with those auto attacks and make sure he's able to continue chasing. So a great game comes out from andinster. But wasn't enough for you to give him your MVP vote there in chat. Go ahead and vote for us in the Mixer poll and let us know what you think.
I got to give a little bit of credit to Baskin in that game. His Thoth play was really spectacular, and that final judgment at the end of that right side Phoenix push definitely proved it onto SmiteVOD.
Well, that's our thoughts here, at least as the casters. We'll get it back over to the analyst, though, to break it down further.
Great job, guys. Finch and Toley on the call there for that one. Exciting, high octane. Unfortunately, Nocturns not able to do this one. Space Station will move on. Nocturns knocked down to the bottom.
Not an easy task though, trying to take out Space Station there. I thought that maybe we could see a game 3 possibility even from Nocturns, but Space Station are just not having it here today. They want to make sure that they're going to be clashing head on with Energy over there in that winning side of the bracket. So now we've already seen one part of North America and Europe respectively. The question is, how are the other teams going to shape up?
That is definitely the question that we're going to have to ask and probably answer a little bit later on. Space Station, honestly, clean game.
And it's hard for Nocturnes, I think, on that second one because like Finch and Toley were finishing off there at the end before they toss it over. It's just... It's one thing when you know that you're giving up an objective because you're going to look for something else on the opposite side of the map. For Nocturnes, there was nothing else anywhere on the map left for them to try and provide any sort of effective farm. And it just the entire jungle constantly being stripped away, every global objective constantly being taken out by Space Station first and foremost, and they just couldn't really beat them to the punch.
Yeah, it was a little bit rough there, especially when you've got that middle laner just doing whatever he wants to do. Baskin coming through with the Soul Gem build. That guy is your most valuable player.
And it's hard to contest because one thing that Nocturnes certainly did not leave themselves with much room to work with is that objective secure. It's Janus versus the Thoth, and I think 9 times out of 10, or 10 times out of 10, I should say, because it's Baskin on the Thoth, you're looking at the objective secure to be pretty heavily in favor for the final judgment as opposed to that through space and time. And while there is some steal potential in the woodwork, it's usually not reliable enough for Nocturnes to feel. I think they didn't feel comfortable looking for an engagement or looking for any sort of team fights based around stealing the objective.
Yeah, and I was sitting with the E United guys watching this one, and I was like, Ares into Thoth, just not a great pick. And they didn't necessarily agree with me there, but when Ares goes up into the ultimate Thoth, I mean, that's the easiest ultimate you're going to get.
Well, we say it all the time. Ares, anytime you see that god on the map, the first thought that always comes to your mind is feast or famine. You either make it work at the start or you reap the consequences. You reap what you sow entirely on this god. You have very little wiggle room in terms of execution. And for Nocturnes, I like the mentality, the thought process, definitely there for them. They just weren't able to pull it off quite yet. I think it was just a little bit too high of a pay grade to try and chance against Space Station.
Yeah, I mean, they might have had the thought process, but these guys, Space Station, had the Thoth process, and they were just able to make it happen from the mid lane, and then even more so in the jungle, like we were talking about. Loved the build out of andinster.
What are the odds we see Thoth in this next set?
I mean,
for Venenu?
I think it's a 100% chance that we see Thoth in the next set. Whether somebody's able to play it or it's banned is a different story. I hope all the players out there have been watching what Thoth has been doing, because it's certainly a situation that you got to be aware of. The Thoth, I think, it's funny. I think it's always about Thoth or Janus, and I think right now Thoth is just a little bit too powerful. But another player that had a fantastic game too was JeffHindla, and he's here on the post-game interview.
All right, I am standing by here with JeffHindla and Andy from andinster. First of all, or from Space Station rather, congratulations on the win you were able to grab just now. I got to ask you all, that play on Gold Fury where you threw space and time over to Pyromancer, that kind of gives you the Fire Giant. I mean, it really feels like that just took game 1 for you all. What were the comms like in that moment when y'all were making that decision?
We definitely had that kind of planned out, right? Like, we knew we were going to do this, that's an option, and if they do that, we're strong enough at this point to just go over contest, and you know what I mean? Like, we kind of had that planned out well.
I was talking to you guys yesterday, and you were telling me that it felt like you guys were going to go for much more free-flowing, take what the map gives you sort of strategy, and that's what it felt like. And did that feel like exactly how you want to be playing these games, where you just kind of take what the other team gives you?
Yeah. We were able to just kind of do what we want because they were playing a little bit defensively, so we were just like waiting until we made room to invade through like lane pressure, and I don't know, we just snowballed like that.
And a lot of the times in these team fights, it's really the sole laner that kind of loops around the backside and gets the big initiation. But Jeff, you had that big Blink ultimate, the Stygian Torment, and you get like 2 Phoenixes in the tower after that one. I mean, did you just realize you had the opportunity, or how did you know that was like going to be so free for you?
So I saw Aqua pushing up early, and I saw there was like maybe one person defending it. And from how we were rotating over from, I think it was our left side, I was like, oh, if I just hang out for a second here, let them do that. If they are dancing between Phoenix and they're not fully giving it up, then I get to just do this for free, and it worked out.
You guys are going to be playing Energy pretty soon. I mean, always seems like you end up playing against them. How excited are you guys to get a chance to go up against them again?
Yeah, we're pretty excited. We're a little bit worried because Energy has taken us down a couple times before, but we're preparing as best we can, and hopefully we can get the win.
Yeah, and as strong as you all are coming into this tournament, it kind of seems like you might be the underdogs here. A lot of people picking Rival, Energy maybe, even United. They've been looking strong lately. Is that how you see yourselves here, and how do you feel about your chances at the tournament?
I think we have a relatively good chance at the tournament. I don't think it's like, yeah, we're definitely 100% guaranteed to win. But we definitely have decent chances. Yeah, you like that? A little bit of those. But yeah, I'm excited to play Energy. It's been a little bit, so pumped.
All right, guys. Well, congratulations on your first victory, and good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
You never know until it happens. Ain't a thing you see coming a mile away. But suddenly lightning somehow got into the bottle. Now you need to move fast to make it stay. You should hurry to love him now. You should hurry to love him now. It's gonna get better, it's gonna get worse. One day is a blessing, but next is a curse. But that's how it is, that's how love's supposed to feel.